Hello viewers, and welcome yet again to this episode of Dinner Guide. I am your host Chef Andy, and today we are going to be working with chicken. We're going to be frying that up with some rice and some vegetables, and I'm going to be showing you a very simple technique of how to achieve the best stir-fry rice in your very own home kitchen. But before we begin, we're going to start by introducing the ingredients before us today. From the very front, I've got about a tablespoon of some soy sauce. I've also got a tablespoon of some orange juice, about 4 cloves of garlic and some chili flakes. I've also got some finely chopped yellow pepper there and some curry powder. I've also got some chopped carrots and some finely julienne snow peas. You're also going to require about 4 pieces of button mushroom and some roughly chopped spring onion. You also require about 250 grams of some chicken breast or boneless chicken. You're also going to require some stock, vegetable of course, some cooked rice. You're also going to require 1 piece of zucchini, some green beans, some salt and pepper to season with, and some oil to cook with. Before we begin the show, we are going to allow you to stretch out and unwind, grabbing your pens and papers ready for taking down the recipe if you are taking your recipe down today, and we'll catch you after a very short break. See you in a little while. Welcome back viewers. If you're just catching up, we're right about ready to start this very simple dish. And now we'll be starting my stir fry by preparing the ingredients that will be going into it. So we're going to start with the chicken, which takes a little longer to cook. So very simply, we're going to grab 1 piece of the chicken breast, and we're going to just chop that into some very small sizes. Remember, the smaller the size of your cut, the quicker the chicken will cook. But very important to also mention, always try and get an even cut every time. Remember, cutting your chicken or your meat in different sizes will deter it from cooking evenly. So always be very vigilant when cutting up your meat. And as I mentioned, it is a very simple technique of doing a fried rice. Now just to finish off the chicken. All right, once that's chopped up, we are going to reserve this on the side. And to begin our process, I'm going to begin by adding some oil to a hot pan. Be very generous at this stage because remember, you are going to take a bit of time to brown your chicken. So once chopped, proceed to add your chicken onto your pan. And you can proceed to turn over your board, giving you a nice clean surface to work on. Now all you need to do at this stage is brown your chicken. Of course, always taking very keen interest in, of course, stirring your mixture continuously. Remember, that always aids in rushing the process and also ensures for an even cooking. Now we're just going to give that anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes to continue browning until perfectly brown all around. Right now, while that continues to cook, we're going to start the next process by destemming some of our green beans. So it's a very simple technique. All you need to do is grab the piece from both ends and just snap or twist off the ends, and that should give you a nice, beautiful, cleaned green bean. But because we had some that we did a little earlier, we're going to work with those. And now next up, I'm going to proceed to julienne my courgette. So begin by just slicing off a bit of the sides there. And of course discard the middle part. Proceed to half that and julienne very, very simply. Be of course be very vigilant, of course, to always be very cautious with your knife. As I always mention, it's always beautiful to have a nice sharp knife to work with, but it could be also dangerous. So always try and make sure to keep any sharp knife away from kids, especially kids that are working unsupervised. Remember, it will actually be a very, very big challenge for you to have your kids cook with you in the kitchen, but in the event of having them cooking with you, always make sure to keep the sharp knives away from your kids, especially if they're not really used to chopping up vegetables, because it could actually be very dangerous. All right, now our chicken is nicely, beautifully browned. We're going to proceed to just pour that out onto a plate and allow it to rest very slightly. And of course, we're going to return the same pan onto the heat, drizzling again once more with a bit of some oil. Next, I'm going to proceed to chop up some garlic very, very roughly. Once that's done, proceed to add that to your pan. Also proceed to add your green beans. Remember, at this stage, you're basically just allowing your vegetables to color with that beautiful heat on your pan. Add your carrots. Add your spring onion. And proceed to toss together. Of course, always making sure that there is enough oil on your pan while you do so. Remember, that always gives your vegetables a nice, beautiful, glossy finish. Proceed to add some oil if your pan is a little dry. And proceed to do the same. Now to that, we're also going to incorporate our snow peas, but we're going to hold those over for a little later. But up next, we'll proceed to add our much softer vegetables, which of course is the mushroom and the zucchini. Very important to add this towards the end because they could actually overcook very, very easily. Right, so a very, very quick chopping of your mushrooms. It doesn't have to be too fine. Remember, you do want your vegetables to stand out. Right, so in goes your mushrooms. Proceed to toss through. And as you can see, a nice beautiful color coming through, nice beautiful fragrance of the garlic. To that, I will proceed to add my courgette. And just proceed to toss that together. Of course, very important to always make sure as well not to overcook your vegetables at this stage. Now to that, we're going to proceed to add our yellow bell pepper and our curry powder. Proceed to toss that together once more. Right, so right after coloring your vegetables, we're going to proceed to add our chicken back to the pan. We're going to proceed to toss that once more. And now you can proceed to add your snow peas, making sure, of course, to have a nice, beautiful julienne to them. Proceed to toss in the pan. Right, so this has probably already cooked almost beyond halfway right now. Just going to spread it off on the pan. And of course, just to finish this off, we're going to add our rice last. Remember, this is already cooked rice. This we cooked a little earlier before we began the show. And by this stage, you should actually have allowed your rice to rest through. Remember, this is also a very handy recipe, especially if you've got some leftovers in your refrigerator and you're just looking for something that is a little easier for you, labor-wise, and a little faster to make for your family. All right, so proceed to toss once more. And something very handy to mention as well, remember to always be very particular to be very vigilant, especially when cooking rice. If you are going to be cooking it twice, for instance, for a stir fry, please always make sure not to cook your rice fully because it will actually begin to mash on the plate, on your pan. All right. Once your rice is beautifully mixed in there, proceed to make a well right in the center of your pan and proceed to add in your soy sauce. Add also a small touch of some stock. This will actually be able to just dissolve that soy. And then just proceed to toss together. Right, so we're going to allow that anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes to continue cooking on the pan. Also gives you a bit of time to allow your vegetables to soften. And we're going to come back right after that and proceed to plating. But before we do so, very important to add a bit of some orange juice. This will actually bring up the flavors really, really nicely and adds a nice, beautiful sweetness to your dish. Right, now once you get to this point, you can proceed to lower your temperature to the lowest possible level you can. And you're going to allow that just a little bit, just over a minute to just finish cooking off. Of course, always making sure that your rice does not stick to the bottom of the pan while you finish off your cooking process. So be sure to keep tossing your mixture on the pan. And you, of course, if you do have a wok available in your kitchen, you can also use that. It will also just save you a bit of time, and it will also make it a little easier, especially when tossing your mixture. You don't, of course, have to toss it the way I did, especially if if you haven't practiced a little bit. So be sure to try it out before you use that particular method to cook. But for those of you who may not have that technique already in your hand, just proceed to just mix with a spoon. It will actually not change the process one bit. And right at this stage, we're going to proceed to turn our heat down completely. And this is now ready to serve. But before we get to that part, we will allow you to take a break, and we'll catch you after a very, very short break. See you in a little while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just catching up with the show, we're right at the last and final stage, which is the plating. If you haven't caught up, if you haven't probably managed to follow up with what we've done today, remember we do have all our content on our YouTube page. So if you have missed out on this and any other previous episodes, do make a point of checking out our YouTube channel, which is BrandPlus TV. You should be able to actually find more of the content we've done in the past, and you can actually be able to learn a bit of technique from there as well. But for this, I'm going to proceed to begin to plate. And I'm going to be using this nice, beautiful deep bowl. Nice, beautiful color there. Nice, beautiful gloss from the vegetables. Chicken's fully cooked and is still nicely golden brown. And this is basically what you should actually be looking for when doing your own stir fry at home. Just going to scoop that last bit of that rice. Simple as that. And now, just to finish off this very simple dish, proceed by just garnishing with some chili flakes over the top. And that, viewers, brings us to the last and final part of the show. I will remind you to check out our YouTube page. There is plenty much for you to be able to catch up on. And if you have any questions, comments, or any particular issues pertaining the show, we're always more than happy to hear from you. So do also drop us a bit of comments on our Facebook page. We're more than happy to hear back from you. But for now, I will bid you farewell, wishing you a lovely evening, a lovely Easter holiday. God bless, and see you soon.